and stop sharing. But if we want to look at images in arm wave, we can certainly do that.
Let's do some arm waving. I think that's warranted at this time of day. So Fatima has raised his hand. What I'm going to do now is actually promote all of our remaining participants to panelists. So then we can see you and you can interact. So I'm just going to go through and do that for everybody. But if you guys, Karen, Janelle and Dom, if you want to go through the questions while I'm getting everybody to be able to be in the room with us, then we can get the conversation going.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Well, just looking at Greg Morrison's question about the boundary between Australia and North America, and because I think it was Nordsvan, I can't remember his first name, his paper suggested that the boundary, so where I flagged that eastern numal that had the west dipping fault blocks, he argued that that was actually part of North America and that the suture would be between that eastern part, that numal east, and the central block, looking at that 07 line in the north. And that's an interesting thought, but when I look at all those seismic lines together and correlation of Abington to the south, and also for me, so that suggests to me, as I highlighted there, that numal east is fundamentally a part of numal and not North America, and that the boundary therefore has to be further east. But also the unbelievable similarity between the Soldiers Cap group and the Etheridge group, and the high iron tholiites are there in both of those packages. Same age, same composition. So fundamentally, to me, they formed in that same related setting. So I would argue for the boundary being further out. I don't know if Janelle or Dom have any further comments on that.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think that it has to be further outboard. I think that the hyperextension, the solid scrap group, it fits quite well with that model, but with North America further out, yeah. Basically. And also, there's no exotic zircons. I think you'd see somehow you'd get some across. Like you can pretty much trace everything. In the eastern
yes, I know they did flag in the paper and suggest there was a different source for part of the Etheridge group. I think it was the lower part. But I know, I see George Gibson's online. I know he's argued, he and David Champion in their subsequent papers, that those ages can be sourced from Australia. And if Abington's there at the same time, which it has to be because it's sitting under those rocks, then maybe it's coming from there as well.
We have a question from Fatima, who's asking if the video of the webinar will be available, and yes, it will, on the GSQ UQ webinar webpage. So you'll be able to download this one or any others, but it does usually take us a few weeks to get it up there.
And with regards to the magnetic modelling question, we did think about doing mag models. And it would have been hard, but I also think it's not going to show us the same thing at the same scale. So if we had something, we could have done something complementary, but I don't think we could have used the same blocks. I think we would have had to do another model that sat over the top of it.
Yeah, I think if we're focused in on a smaller area, then it'd be make more sense to really try and bring the mag modeling into that as well.
You got fairly different geothermal gradients all over the place there as well. So you're going to have different Curie depths. It's going to be a little bit of a nightmare to try and do if you do an upward continued version of it.
I'm waiting to hear from George. George Gibson on the line. Do you have comments, contributions? Maybe he wasn't listening.
Maybe he's run away.
Yeah.
No, I don't run away.
No. I was just going to say maybe he ran away to get a drink.
No, I've been listening. Yeah, I think in terms of Georgetown being exotic to the rest of Eastern Australia, I think that's unlikely. We did look into the sources of the detrital zircon, and I think a lot of the older ages can come from Pine Creek. So there's no need to source them from North America. I guess overall, I was very intrigued at the attempts to try and unravel what's happening at depth with your different basement terrains. I take my hat off to you. You're a lot braver than I would be.
I like to arm wave. I'm happiest there.
But I think one of the things that I agree with, if you look at what you call the Gidya suture, which is dipping towards the west, then sitting above in the hanging wall, you've got a lot of those east dipping structures. And I think some of the east dipping structures initially started off as reverse faults, and they were subsequently reactivated from Leichhardt time onward, because they went from thrust faults into extensional structures.
Yes.
And control things like the Leichhardt. So the geometry you see there is very much as we've interpreted it over the last few months, because we've been looking at M6 and some of the other lines in detail for entirely different reasons.
Yeah, excellent. I agree. I think those east dipping structures are probably reactivating and controlling Leichhardt super basin and then younger sequences.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might just relieve the dog of that toy. I'll be right back.
The dangers of working at home. Greg has a question for you, Dom. Greg, you can unmute yourself if you want to talk. Or we can just read the comment out from the chat. So Greg Morrison is asking Dom.
Yeah, nice.
I'll read it out loud. Yeah, the new ages from in or under the Malungra that you said are basal Galilee, are they early Carboniferous? If so, that is interesting, as there are similar ages west of Croydon where all the circular mag anomalies are that have been drilled as mafic volcanic and subvolcanic intrusions. Please just read it. Okay, yes, I'm reading it.
I'm just looking up the actual number. So.
Okay, Dom is taking that one on notice, and we'll come back to you. Thanks, Fatima, for joining us. She's gone. What about Michael Dublier? He was here a minute ago. Maybe he's gone now. Or Paul Donchak, you're online, and I saw you were asking questions earlier.
There's a lot of detail about the Gidja suture in the Ernest Henry area that seems pretty equivocal. If there seems to be about 15 kilometres of section that's gone missing with that reactivation, that there's no trace of that. Just further south, just south of Cloncurry, everything's happy and no trace of any loss of section. So that part of the suture is defined by those MT anomalies. So I wonder if anyone's got any comment on that.
Well, I think just sort of structurally, I think that's really interesting. And I've been going around in circles on that, because we look at that 07 line and we have Leichhardt super basin rocks. So the Mount Fort Constantine volcanics juxtaposed in the hanging wall over top of the Soldier's Cap group. And but as we come south and we look at the M4 line, we don't, so we've got the Leichhardt super basin, but it is not, the Gidja structure doesn't break through and juxtapose it against the Soldiers Cap group in the footwall. So I still can't get my head around exactly what structure is doing that and what it looks like in 3D. But maybe next time I'm up in Brisbane, I'll catch you for breakfast again, and we'll sit down and arm wave about it, because I'm still unsatisfied. I mean, and that's the area I flagged when I was talking about M4, whether overhang structure, overhang shear comes through there and is folded in part, but there's still another structure that's complicating the geometry between that we're seeing between those two seismic lines. And that may be partly the Numel West block and its geometry that we don't quite yet understand, and other early inherited structures. But that's a bit of a cop-out,
Yeah.
But as I said, unsure and happy to chat about it.
Yeah, well, there's a total contrast going across the Crombie fault to the north on CF1. So that's almost another quandary that is sort of equally puzzling.
Those two lines are so frustrating. They are so hard to get a consistent interpretation, and Russell Korsh might want to pop in and comment on that. The 07 line is all the structures are so well defined in that, and everything shows up quite well, which I think tells us that the dominant dip of the structures is at a high angle to that seismic line. So we get on to CF1 and it's sub-parallel to the geology, and it's so hard to make sense and put together a consistent interpretation.
To go back to Greg's question, the rocks that we dated, which we thought might be the basal part of the Galilee, like late Carboniferous. So I'm not sure if they'd be able to be compared to those ones around Croydon, but we'll have a look at that.
Well, I guess one thing to point out here is that this work isn't finished. So it's kind of where Karen, Janelle and Dom are at the moment, but the work will be ongoing for a little while at least. There's a lot more to look at, a lot more interpretations to do, and more MT coming through, and Dom's going to be collecting more isotopic data as well, ably assisted in the field by small dog. Pretty cute. So
yeah. So there will be the initial report that we're just wrapping up based on the seismic interpretation, preliminary dating, and with the gravity modeling for each line, and the MT that is complete enough at this stage. So that, that's the drafts there. We're just tidying that up. So most of what we presented today will come out hopefully before too long, and then lots of follow-up.
We had hoped to have it out for today, but got a lot of other reports trying to get out at the moment as well in preparation for the workshop in Mount Isa. So definitely we'll be ready to download probably in the next 2 months, I'd say, and
maybe we'll aim to tidy it up for the end of August.
Yeah, that would be great. All right. Does anybody else want to jump in, give a comment, an opinion, ask a question? Janelle, you had some questions directed at you here, didn't you? Or was that in the chat? Trying to.
There was just a question about whether the pitter is resistive, or the pitter and the central Isa together are both part of the same resistive block. And I think Karen answered that one pretty well, to be honest. But like, there's a chance that the central Isa block was originally resistive and is just more amenable to subsequent conductive anomalies being emplaced in it than the pitter pitter is. So it's always a bit of a struggle to unravel the timing of some of these anomalies and what they might have looked like when they were originally in place. Obviously, we're looking at them now. So, but I think in its current state, it would be nice to have a bit more data to be very clear that it's really only the pitter pitter that is the resistive block. But that would be my feeling is that that's the case in its current state.
Yeah, that and the Calcadoon Leichhardt suite. It certainly seems to be pretty resistive.
Yeah.
James Macaulay, you had a question online which we did answer, but I wondered if you wanted to contribute anything else while you're here.
Here we are. This broad-scale geological work, the investigations, are a very handy stepping stone for explorers to formulate ideas and exploration plans based on what you're doing here with this broad-scale work. So thank you very much. I'll let you know when we find the 80 million ounce deposit.
Thanks, James.
Please do. We're gunning for you.